What's good, y'all? It's your boy HB, final round. I believe the fight is going to go down with Caleb Plant and Canelo Alvarez. I'm going to do my fight prediction. This one's not really going to change. Obviously, I'll have one more quick summary before the fight. If anything changes, then I'll change my prediction. But I cannot bet against Canelo Alvarez anymore, man. I used to be concerned that he would have issues with guys who box off the back foot, but he's kind of proven, as he's learned from the Mayweather fight, how to deal with guys who like to box off the back foot. Obviously he understood, hey, I have to be consistent to the body. I have to rip my opponent and consistently throughout the fight to his body. And he's found all sorts of different ways to do that, whether it be pot shotting with the right hand, whether it be snatching wind from his opponent with his jab. And this is what really separates him from most guys. He's able to counter and throw multiple hooks to the body when he exchanges with his opponent, which is a very risky move, and that's why you don't see too many even professional level fighters do that. But he's mastered it. He understands the only way to deal with these guys that don't want to engage with me is to take their body away. I take their body away, I take their legs away. I take their legs away, I strip them from what they can do good. Or I take away their best asset, which is the ability to move, stick and move. And, I thought he may have had issues with Billy Joe. I'll admit that. I thought that Billy Joe would give him some trouble, and he didn't even give him trouble because Canelo has now mastered that style. Mayweather obviously fucked him up, and Irislandi Laura, even though he pulled it out on the scorecards, it still looked like he was very frustrated dealing with that style. And then yes, he beat Amir Khan, who emulated that, but Amir Khan was significantly smaller, and we all know Amir Khan has a glass chin. So for me, I went into that Billy Joe fight thinking like, man, he may have some problems here, he may have some issues. And Billy Joe being a southpaw, being a slick boxer, he may be able to pull it out on the scorecards. And but I can't bet against Canelo, man. The way he performed against Billy Joe, he didn't even show any signs of frustration or weakness with that style. I mean, even with Amir Khan in the beginning of the fight, Amir Khan was ripping off some shots. He had a beautiful lead left hook followed up with a right cross combination right out the gate with Canelo. He was moving well. His speed was overwhelming Canelo. It bothered him. But Canelo stuck to the game plan. He understood, like, look, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to keep pot shotting this guy with the right hook, and eventually I'll set him up with the right hand over the top. And he knew that Amir Khan wasn't going to stand his ground and fight in the pocket with him, because if he did, he would have got fucked up. So it was a kind of damned if you do situation, damned if you don't for Amir Khan. He was just too small and to contend with Canelo Alvarez. But nonetheless, he did show, he did get Canelo a little bit frustrated. But once again, Canelo was patient. He stuck with his body snatching attack, and he was able to finish that fight. So that was kind of my logic when I had Billy Joe possibly pulling out the upset against Canelo on the scorecards. But man, it's hard to bet against him, man. It's hard to bet against him. Even though I think Caleb Plant is going to be a bigger fighter. He's not going to be as small as Billy Joe. And Caleb Plant does have some decent power, but he's not going to have anything that's going to be able to bother Canelo Alvarez, in my opinion, because, I mean, if Canelo Alvarez is taking Triple G's best shot, I don't see what Caleb Plant's going to be able to do to him. Granted, there's different types of way to knock your opponent out. Sometimes it's that bludgeoning pressure and power that you get from Triple G, or sometimes it's that ability to set your opponent up with a shot that he just doesn't see coming, and that would be more so what Caleb Plant can do. Is that possible? Sure, but do I think it's going to happen? No. I do like Caleb Plant's boxing abilities. I love that he can stick and move. I would give him a shot to win this, and I would roll with him, but man, Canelo's just on another level. He's showing he is the pound for pound best fighter in the world, and he's showing that he has so many different ways he can skin the cat. You know, he can fight going forward, backward. He can fight in the pocket. He can counterpunch very well. He can put pressure. What can't the man do? So with all those tools and weapons at his disposal, how does Caleb Plant beat this guy? Well, I mean, if anything, I think Caleb Plant needs to go and study a lot of that Mayweather fight with Canelo. You know, maybe he needs to drop that lead hand down and go into a Philly shell to protect his body, because that's going to be the key to the fight for Caleb Plant. Protect my body at all costs. I rather Canelo get me down or get me up here than get me down here, because I mean, at least, yeah, he may be catching me with shots to the head from time to time, but my cardio is not going to be sapped, my energy is not going to be sapped, and I can utilize my best tool in this fight, and that's my footwork. And you can get the upper hand on Canelo, but can you maintain it? Can you maintain it? And it's hard for guys to maintain that fleet of foot style when Canelo's ripping you with hard shots to the body. You know, you're feeling in the solar plex, you feel it in the kidneys, the liver. You know, your body starts to fucking cramp up on you, and now you're dropping your guard anyways because he keeps on hitting you to the body, and you're trying to protect your body. You literally have no control over that. So eventually you're going to end up exposing your head anyway. So why not, if you're Caleb Plant, a very skilled, very tactical, very smart fighter, great head movement, good athleticism, great at managing the distance, why not just drop that lead hand and go into your training camp practicing that Philly shell, practicing how to avoid those shots to the head, you know, even though you're going to leave it exposed. You know, Caleb Plant's going to have to do a lot of clinching to try and disrupt Canelo Alvarez. He's going to have to do a lot of feinting. He's going to have to make sure every time he gets close to the ropes or the corner, he gets backed up. He finds a way, whether it's the clinch, whether it's the feint, whether it's by launching his own attack or just skating out, jabbing his way out, how to get back to the center of the ring and reset and box without taking too much punishment to his body from Canelo Alvarez. If he can find some way to avoid those body shots, you know, maybe there's something else he can do. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing here. I do have to check the measurables in terms of the height, the range of Caleb Plant compared to Canelo. Maybe he's just long enough to keep that distance from Canelo to avoid those body shots, especially that right hook to the body that does so much damage to some of his past opponents. But even so, man, even if he has like a 2-inch reach advantage, I don't think that's going to be enough. The only hope I think Caleb Plant has for this fight is to put his guard down, protect his body at all costs, all the pressure point areas, and utilize phenomenal head work or head movement. And, you know, he's slick enough. He understands how to box very well. He understands. So he can pull it off. He's going to have to show, if you're going to beat a pound for pound great like Canelo Alvarez, then you have to show the world you are pound for pound great. And you're going to have to show many different aspects to your game. You can't just take your one style. I know he does it very well, but you just can't go into this fight with one style and just execute it well. No, you're going to have to show many shades to your game. Just like Canelo. Like I said earlier, Canelo can do it all. He can fucking do it all. And he can be what he needs to be against whoever he's going up against. But, you know, in that Mayweather fight, Mayweather did a great job of not giving. There was literally nothing Canelo could do. He couldn't hit him up top. He couldn't hit him, in his torso. He couldn't do nothing. And he got frustrated, and you saw it. And Mayweather was able to take it to the later rounds and start controlling the fight, start dictating the pace and moving when he wanted to move. And every time he moved, he was just setting Canelo up. And he started to settle down on his in his stance and started to let his hands go against Canelo and started to pick him apart with shots. And that's what Caleb Plant needs to do. He really needs to reference that Mayweather film against Canelo and see what he did. And one of the things Mayweather was a master at doing is disrupting his opponent's timing and rhythm by clinching up with him. He did the same thing in the Pacquiao fight. Every time Pacquiao backed him up to the ropes or the corner, yeah, sometimes he would shell up and roll with the punches, but a lot of times he would go in, disrupt Manny Pacquiao's attack right before he was about to get off and clinch up. That way, you know, Manny Pacquiao couldn't, he couldn't launch his attack. And obviously, when you're putting pressure on a fight that's fleet of foot, you know, your best time to let your hands go is when you got them backed up in a corner or you got them backed up to the ropes, because they either have to go left, right, or they have to come forward and engage with you. And, you know, that's what Caleb Plant needs to pay attention to. Is just like, mix it up. Don't be too predictable. Every time you get your back to the rope or corner, don't always clinch, right? Because Canelo will pick up on it and he'll have a response, you know. But maybe you do a little feinting. Maybe the next time you clinch. Maybe the next time you jab your way out. Maybe the next time you launch your own attack. You know, maybe that you just go purely defensive. Maybe you take a risk every once in a while and sit on the ropes and, you know, roll with those punches and try to come back with your own counter. But if I'm Caleb Plant, I'm not looking to exchange combinations. He does have a beautiful combo. He'll throw a double jab. I don't know if he starts with the hook to the head or the hook to the body, but he'll double up on that left hook, and it's a beautiful combo. But I wouldn't want to be letting my hands go with Canelo and the way he counters. For me, I'll be pot shotting all day. I get in that Philly shell, and every once in a while, maybe I'll sit back on the ropes and, you know, block those shots, you know, catch a jab, shoot with the cross, or catch a hook, come back with the uppercut, and then get back to the center of the ring. That's the key. You need real estate if you're Caleb Plant. You need to have real estate behind you so you can maneuver defensively, so you can have space to work with defensively and mix it up. Maybe a L step, maybe a pivot, maybe you pull out and back up, maybe you come forward. Now you got extra real estate. That way when Canelo launches his own attack, you have plenty of room to back out and clear the space. You know, it's all about real estate in this, in controlling it. And if Caleb Plant can't find effective ways to make his way back into the center of the ring, he's going to have a very rough night. He's going to be walking on a tightrope throughout this fight as it is. But unfortunately, my heart kind of wants to go with Caleb Plant. I think he's a bit bigger and he could pose some issues. But I can't pick against Canelo, man. He's just on fire. I think he's peaking. I think he's at the top of his game. And I think he's ready to take over and show, hey, I'm the king of boxing. And the only guy who I think can contend with him pound for pound is Terrence Crawford. But Terrence Crawford's not getting the fights, man. He's not getting the resume to show he's pound for pound. So I got to give that to Canelo, even with the loss to Mayweather. So I believe Canelo's going to win this fight. I think he will win it by knockout. I think he will overwhelm Caleb Plant. I probably would have rolled with Caleb Plant if his performance was better against Uzcategui. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. But I saw Caleb get stunned in that fight. And Uzcategui is not in the realm of Canelo Alvarez. Uzcategui was very squared, didn't utilize his jab that much in that fight, didn't go down to the body that much, was kind of walking in, taking a few shots just to give a few to Caleb Plant. But nonetheless, even then, he stunned Caleb Plant, and I don't think he has the power, the speed, the combinations, the body work, and the countering ability of Canelo Alvarez. And I know that Caleb Plant has probably significantly improved from that last fight, but Canelo's also been improving, and that last fight with Billy Joe Saunders was fucking phenomenal. There was no holes in his game. I didn't see him get frustrated at any point. I didn't see him lose control of that fight. I didn't see Billy Joe getting one-upping Canelo at any point. Canelo had full control. Billy Joe's style did not bother him at all, and he mopped the fucking floor with Billy Joe Saunders. And I just find it hard to believe Caleb Plant is going to have enough power to if he had more power, I would say, okay, he's going to be able to set his feet at some points and exchange with Canelo. But man, if he does so at his own peril. He does so at his own his own peril. I have to do a little bit more film study on Caleb Plant, and I'll have to look back at that film study with Mayweather and Canelo and kind of see exactly what Mayweather was doing. But I think one of the things that really fucked Canelo in that fight was that Philly shell. There was just no way to slow down Mayweather. And, that's the only way, to stop a fighter who likes to fight off the back foot. Take his body away. take his body away. And even if Caleb Plant does a fairly good job of protecting his body, he still has to account for the fact that, Canelo's going to be the aggressor, and refs will favor that. And Canelo is the fucking cash cow and the king of boxing right now. If you're Caleb Plant, it's exponentially working against you. You have to go into the fight and show the world that you have to take it. You can't simply just skate by. You can't barely win. Nobody's going to give you this shit. Like, you have to come in there and you have to take it, and you have to say, hey world, I'm here. This is my shit. I'm the king, and you're going to have to convincingly win. And I just don't think Caleb Plant's going to be able to do that. Even if he does, he's barely going to do it on the scorecards. And I'm sorry, the judges will favor Canelo Alvarez. He's the king of boxing. He's the cash cow. Even though I think Caleb Plant can take that place, being, a white American, great boxer, phenomenal boxer. I believe, the American public would love to embrace him if he could pull out a huge victory. But Canelo is the fucking king, and you can't just barely beat the king. You have to kill that motherfucker. You have to put a dagger on him, make sure he's dead, put him in a fucking coffin, burn his body, I don't know, and rid of him. You can't just go in and think you're going to squeak by with a decision. And so I think that poses a lot of problems for Caleb Plant. And even if he is able to get to 12 rounds, I don't think it's going to be enough to convince the judges and the way he's going to fight that he's won. He would really have to put on a boxing clinic like Mayweather did to win this fight. He really would. He can't just it can't be like Landy Lara and Canelo. Like, he may be able to avoid most of those shots, but man, the judges will favor Canelo Alvarez. And I'm sorry, I agree. If you're going to beat the pound for pound king, you need to fucking kill him. And you need to fucking bury his body and make sure that motherfucker's dead. And if you ain't gonna do that, then sorry, bud. On to the next one, next contender, next challenger. That's just the way it is in this sport. That's just the way it is. If you got the cash cow and the king of the sport, you have to take it from him. You can't just squeeze by unless you're kind of bringing something big to the sport, a huge fan base. And I'm not saying Caleb can't be that, but I don't think he's kind of got enough clout behind him or enough leverage to kind of squeeze that victory by. I could be wrong, but I don't think he has enough leverage to kind of just pull it out on the scorecards. It wouldn't shock me if it went to the scorecards. It wouldn't shock me if Caleb Plant was able to put on a pretty good boxing show, but I just think it's going to be too overwhelming. Once you're getting ripped with those body shots by Canelo, and his power is just sensational right now, he's going to take away your legs, man, and then he's going to fucking blast your orbitals just like he did with Billy Joe. So that it is what it is, man. I think Canelo's going to win. I'm not betting against him. Even if Caleb Plant has a good chance, I'm not picking against this dude again, man, until I see a fighter that I really think has a good chance, or maybe goes up in weight against a guy who I think could give him a lot of problems. But yeah, I'll do a little bit more film study, and maybe I'll change my opinion as we go. But as of now, Canelo Alvarez over Caleb Plant. But it should be an interesting fight. I want to see it. I think it'll be fairly good. I think it should be entertaining one. So tell me what you think. Comment down below. Let me know how you feel about the fight. Do you think Caleb Plant stands a chance? Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Young up-and-coming boxer here in Hollywood. Man, doing it big at Wild Card Boxing Gym. Get at me, man. It's your boy HB, final round.